Welcome to Community Talk, a public affairs presentation of the MSA United Way and Super Talk 1270. Now your host, Jenna Gullo.
Welcome to United Way's Community Talk. I am your host and MSA United Way Executive Director, Jenna Gullo, and co-hosting with me today is the marketing specialist, the everything at United Way, Mr. Scott Hansen.
Well, I'm glad to be here, as always.
Scott, what's new at United Way?
Everything. Well, it's campaign season, so it's a busy time at United Way. We're getting out there with presentations, getting the word out to the community about all the great programs that we're supporting throughout the community.
Well, it was really exciting. I was at the Legislative Council speaking today to their attorneys, their accountants. They were a hoot, let me tell you. The gal that organized it for me said, you know, really drive on stats. You know, whatever stats you have and any numbers, really focus on those. And so we joked about, you know, do the attorneys, do they not have hearts to warm, or what's the situation? But no, they were great. They had one of the best government divisions this last year for our campaign, one of the best increases. We are so appreciative. And we are also really appreciative that people are giving to our MSA United Way Endowment Fund. They get a 40% tax credit when they donate to that fund. So if you are in the upper tax bracket, you're looking for a way to make the biggest bang with your buck and have the greatest impact. That's not just for today, but for every day into our community, into our future. Please look us up. Give us a call. Our number is 701-255-3601. Go online to msaunitedway.org. We have a lot of information there, and we really, really appreciate it because a gift of $5,000 oftentimes has an out-of-pocket cost of just over $2,000. So it's a really great way to give what you might normally be giving back to your community, but to be able to give more and have the out-of-pocket cost be about the same. So today, we have a really good program lined up here. We have a few different guests that are going to be talking with us about bullying. I didn't even realize this, but a national report says 1 in 4 North Dakota high school students report being bullied electronically or physically. And then this last year's Youth Risk Behavior Survey reported that 49.5% of middle school students in Bismarck-Mandan public schools report being bullied on school property. Scott, I had no idea that the statistics were so alarming. You would think in a place like North Dakota, we would have something like this covered, but apparently these rates are higher than the national average.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those issues that we're not free from here in North Dakota.
So this morning we will be speaking with Wachter Middle School counselor and University of Mary graduate instructor, Ms. Dotti Dixon. We also will have Valerie Fischer on our show later, about 11:30 or so. She is from the North Dakota Department of Public Instruction. She is the director of Safe and Healthy Schools. But on the phone with us right now, a very, very well-spoken, interesting, and passionate guest, Meg Luther Lindholm from Stand Up, North Dakota. Meg, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Amber and Scott. It's really wonderful to be on your show and to be talking about this issue, which, as you absolutely rightly pointed out, is a very big one in North Dakota.
So, Meg, tell us, you're the creator of Stand Up North Dakota. What is Stand Up North Dakota?
So Stand Up North Dakota is a multimedia project that looks at the problem, yes, but more importantly, what educators, parents, and even kids themselves are doing to stand up to bullying and to really address it in all kinds of different ways. So we're really trying to look out there both in North Dakota and around the country for approaches and ways of addressing bullying. And then we post what we find to our social media. We have a Facebook page. It's very actively produced. We post to it 3 times a day. We'd really encourage your audience to go to Facebook, search Stand Up ND, and like the page for lots of really good information, for inspirational messages, but also really good articles about what parents can do to protect their kids online, and what educators are doing to try to make a difference. And we have a Twitter account. We have a website, standupnd.net. We're really trying to connect people around the state to thinking about this issue, but more importantly, really looking at what's out there and what's making a difference and what's helping kids.
Certainly, and I've been on that website and on your Facebook and Twitter, and I have to say, yes, you do have some great content on there, and there's some really exciting things that are happening across the state of North Dakota that you've been able to share through Stand Up North Dakota. Could you tell us a little bit about how Stand Up North Dakota got started, where the inspiration came from, Meg?
Well, the inspiration really came from the North Dakota State Legislature. Back in 2011, the legislature passed a law saying that every school district in the state had to have a plan to both address bullying when it happens and also to prevent it. And that really got us at Prairie Public thinking about, okay, what can we do to sort of ride this wave of greater awareness, greater attention, hopefully more resources being put into addressing bullying. And so we came up with a proposal. We shopped it around to funders, and we got funding to do the media that I mentioned, plus radio stories that will start airing on Prairie Public in October. Stories on everything from how to help your kids manage their anger. Anger management is a big issue, both for teachers, counselors, parents. How do you help your kids when they're having a tantrum? And you certainly don't want anger to spill out and into bullying behavior towards other kids. So that would be one issue that we look at. And then I traveled around the state and met with people like Dr. Dotti Dixon. One of my stories will be on the program at her school, actually. I spent an afternoon at Wachter Middle School interviewing students there and talking to her about Rachel's Challenge, which is a nationwide program. They have a very active chapter of Friends of Rachel at her school, and so that's another program that I'm doing a story on that will air in October on Prairie Public.
Meg, we just have a minute left here of this segment, but why don't you take us out and talk about one specific student or victim that you feel that you've helped deal with this?
Oh, that's a hard question. I rather than one, I can't really single out one, but what I will say is we have traveled the state this summer, meeting kids at fairs and festivals and talking to a lot of them and their parents about their experiences and kind of what helped them, what was sort of cathartic. I remember meeting one girl who said she had been bullied so badly and now is looking to start support groups for kids who've been bullied. There is a group of kids at Moorhead High School. They've turned themselves into a group called the Bully Stompers, and they're a great inspiration, and I'll be doing a program on them as well.
Well, I can't wait to learn more by logging on to standupnorthdakota.net. Thank you, Meg Luther Lindholm, and all that you're doing across the state. Stay tuned, everyone. We will be back with Dotti Dixon right here on United Way's Community Talk and Super Talk 1270.
Currently, it's 66.
Get the traffic and weather information you need anytime on Super Talk 1270 and online at supertalk1270.com.
Welcome back to United Way's Community Talk on Super Talk 1270. Join our conversation. You can post your question on Facebook. We are at facebook.com/MSAUway, or go on Twitter at MSA United Way. Scott Hansen, you are the marketing specialist at United Way. You organize all of these shows, which Town Square Media graciously donates to us every other week from 11 to 12 every Tuesday. Tune in. Thank you for organizing this show. And gosh, some surprising stats on bullying in the Bismarck-Mandan area and throughout North Dakota.
Certainly, yeah. It's certainly been an educational experience, doing the research and on some of these issues.
Yeah, a national report says 1 in 4 high school students in North Dakota report being bullied electronically or physically. And the numbers are even higher for middle school students. On last year's Youth Risk Behavior Survey, 49.5% of middle school students in the Bismarck-Mandan area public schools have been bullied on school property. It's an issue that creates school environments where, gosh, students must have difficulty focusing and achieving and, even wanting to go to school. Here to talk with us today is Dr. Dotti Dixon. Dotti, I know you because you've been so helpful to us at United Way in the past. You've been on our community impact committees. You've helped to review applications and really help us to identify what are those true needs at the school level. So thank you.
Thank you,
Dr. Dixon, for helping us throughout the years, because you go far beyond your job as a school counselor at Wachter Middle School here in Bismarck. So thank you for everything you do for the kids. So let's start by talking about what is your definition of bullying?
Well, and I'm going to use the Bismarck Public Schools bullying definition, although most of them are pretty similar to that, and it just goes deliberate hostility, intentional cruelty, or aggression towards a victim that is weaker and less powerful than the bully, with an outcome that is painful, distressing, or intimidating for the victim. And of course, we know that it can take many forms, but the big thing there is always a balance. There's a power imbalance, which makes ill treatment of the victim possible. And sometimes that's, many students that gang up on someone, or sometimes it's just that somebody is more physical and more socially adept, because, of course, we have the online bullying and we have emotional bullying. And then, of course, it goes anywhere from a lower level up to a higher level, which most of those behaviors are against the law.
And so it's got to be a complex situation to deal with, especially with so many students adapting to social media and utilizing that. How in the world can the school system monitor things like that?
Well, we try to monitor things that happen during the day, although obviously some things will happen in the evenings or on the weekends and get brought back to school. And, of course, we need the help of the community with parent involvement from the home level in order to make this all work. So a lot of communication between the school and the home and with students to make sure we're all on the same page and working towards a common goal of everybody being safe and being able to be safe in their home and, of course, at school.
Well, not having children, I do foster care, but not having my own children, I feel like sometimes I'm a little out of touch with teenagers today, which I can't even hardly believe I'm old enough to say that. But with that being said, what is a typical day for a middle school counselor like?
Well, no day is ever the same, so there is no boring day. That's the good part. You never know what's coming your way, but we tend to be directive and try to be preventative. So we have set things throughout the day, and then those little things that just are emergencies that crop up, we just fit those in wherever we can.
And so what are some of the issues that you might see from week to week that that your students are dealing with?
Well, I suppose the media, as far as the social media, has grown immensely over the last 5 years, because now everybody just about has a cell phone, and most of them are smartphones, and so the world is right at their fingertips. And to school them on the fact that anything they say or do could be sent worldwide to people forever and ever. And that's always a good teaching moment, but something that we have to really focus on.
Mm-hmm. Are there warning signs when parents, are talking with their kids, or you're talking with your students, that you notice?
Well, sometimes it's an attendance issue, and we'll notice that a student isn't coming, and we try to figure out why it is. And it could be that they're trying to avoid a difficult situation, whether it's that they didn't have an assignment finished, or maybe there is somebody that's bullying them. And so attendance can be one of those effects, obviously. Sometimes we just see a withdrawal, maybe they're a little more depressed, or there's a change. And parents usually, and their friends, when they get into middle and high school, their friends are probably the first to pick up on those types of issues.
Yeah, and so what's the first step to take? And is it at a school level? Is it, does it need to be in the homes, or is it a combination of both?
It's definitely a combination of both. We need parent help and all of the friend help that we can get as they get older, because they don't spend as much time with anybody but friends. And so friends become crucial when they develop in the middle school, and of course high school friends become even more important. So when they would notice something, and who would they tell? They'd probably tell their best friend before they might tell somebody at the school or somebody at home.
And what's that friend supposed to do? I mean, what are you preaching to these students?
Well, we try to educate them so that friends know what to do. If they see a problem with a friend, they know what to do, they know who to go to, and they know that when they go to that person will take care of it. It should be a safe adult. And if that person doesn't do anything, then they need to find another safe adult to go to make sure that there's adults involved. And sometimes if it really ratchets up, police get involved too. And our resource officers sometimes play a critical role in the schools.
So what can we be doing as a community to prevent bullying?
Well, it takes the community, but I think probably the big thing is that we just get the word out, and that probably the biggest thing is it stops when it gets told about. Too often, students just think, well, I'll ignore it, it'll go away. I won't do anything. What if the bullying gets worse? And obviously, bullying behavior, that's what they count on. They tend to pick on people that they don't think will tell, and they don't think will, because that's the difference in power. Mm-hmm. And so consequently, we need to empower all students to know what to do, and that's one of the jobs that counselors and teachers, administrators, and the community can play a big role on. And parents can say, if there is anybody ever hurting you, please let us know immediately, because the sooner you get to it, the less damage is done. And we have a bystander program where we make sure that if somebody witnesses, they have ways of anonymously or directly getting help. And that's probably who's going to see it first will be a student will probably see another student maybe with some bullying behavior towards another student. I had a situation where they caught something on Facebook, and so we were able to, nip that really quickly. And the students did it all themselves.
Gosh, that would be so heart-wrenching. You have a child that you want to, obviously you protect, and then they go to school, and you just don't know what you're going to encounter. So as a parent, are there certain things we can be doing with our children to maybe discover that some of this is going on?
Well, talking to them every day and asking those open-ended questions, not just, how was your day? And they go, fine. And they go, whew, parents are off my back. I did just fine today. But really asking maybe for something good that happened and for something not so good that happened during the day to try to open a conversation is always really important for the parents. And then knowing where your students are. Where are the kids? Are they at a friend's house? And what kind of computer availability does the friend have? And what do the parents allow at that household is always important to know, because the world is bigger than just your living room. Keeping computers out of the bedrooms, keeping them in a central location is always a good thing when you're talking about online bullying, so that you know and watch those footsteps of where your children have been.
Absolutely, and that's becoming more and more difficult these days when you have televisions that have internet right on them. I was in an 8-year-old's bedroom a couple of weekends ago, and she was showing me how she can access YouTube on her TV, 8 years old. And so I think it's very challenging for parents who are so busy, particularly, if they're trying to work or they're a single parent or they have lots of children, to monitor all of that. I liked your suggestion of those open-ended questions. So now, Dotti, you are also a professor. You teach at the University of Mary, and you teach graduate courses in counseling.
Right.
So which courses do you teach, and how long have you been doing that?
Well, I've taught a real variety. I've done it for about the last 5 years. And, of course, teaching the counselors that are coming out, both in the community and at the school level, is fabulous, because then they have the knowledge to go out and be fabulous counselors themselves. And so I find that very rewarding to be a part of that.
If you had to pick one piece of information to pass along to these future educators, gosh, I know that's a tough question, but what is it that you instill in them?
Well, the first thing to be effective, period, is always relationships. I mean, I think in school we get so built, we do reading and writing and arithmetic as the old thing, and now we've added respect and we've added responsibility. But when it comes right down to it, it's the relationship piece that's going to be the key piece. Because you won't get anywhere without a relationship. So that's a key piece for parents. It's a key piece for students to learn with other students. Key piece for, obviously, graduate students coming out, for them to know, for teachers and for the students they will deal with.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dixon, Wachter Middle School counselor, for all you do day in and day out for our community and for our students. We will be back in just a few minutes to continue our discussion on how to have safe and healthy schools. We'll be talking with Valerie Fischer from DPI. So tune in just a couple more minutes here. Thank you.
Currently, it's 66.
Your news leader, weeknights at 6 and 10. Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to United Way's Community Talk. I am Jenna Gullo, the Executive Director of the MSA United Way. September is Hunger Action Month, and 1 in 10 people right here in North Dakota struggle to put food on the table. Do not let their struggles go unheard. Join us in the fight. There are more than 1 in 7 children in our state that are having difficulty getting the nutrition and meals that they need. Sponsor our United Way backpack program. It's an easy solution to make sure kids go home over the weekend. They have the food they need. Bags are only $4.50 or $2,000 if you or your business would like to sponsor a full weekend. You may not know we have 122 students this year in Bismarck Public Schools who are homeless. So right now, we have 320 at-risk students that we are providing backpacks to so they don't go hungry over the weekend. Log on to msaunitedway.org. Join us on Facebook. Call in with questions, with conversation. Join the conversation. Go on to Facebook, and you can even go on to Twitter. Tweet at MSA United Way. We are going to be continuing our discussion on bullying. What a shocking statistic that in the Bismarck-Mandan area, 49.5% of middle school students report having been bullied on school property. 24.6% of middle school students in the Bismarck-Mandan area report having been electronically bullied. Gosh, darn it, that makes me so mad. Joining us in studio, we've asked Dr. Dixon to stay with us because we wanted to spend a little bit more time talking about some local efforts. And we also have from the Department of Public Instruction, Valerie Fischer. Valerie, welcome.
Jenna, thank you.
We appreciate all the work that you do. You've been with the Department of Public Instruction for 26 years?
Oh, gosh, no.
What is it?
20 years.
Oh, only 20. Only 20.
Don't age me.
Thank you for all the work that you do. We're going to be talking a little bit more with you in just a little bit. But before you scooted out of here, Dr. Dixon, we were talking on break about Rachel's Challenge. And talk about that with our listeners and how, what we've been able to do locally.
Well, Rachel's Challenge was one of those programs that started out of a catastrophe because Columbine shooting in Columbine, Colorado. Rachel Scott was the first student that was killed on that awful day. And as a result, her family, after her death, decided that they needed to do something. And probably one of the critical things was we never spent a lot of time behind dressers, but when they were cleaning out her room and moved the dresser out, they found her hands that she had taken a Sharpie and gone around her hands. And on the hands it said, "These hands will touch millions." And since her death, they literally have, because
wow, that gives me chills right now. Wow.
Yeah, so what happened was her family decided that they would do something so that other students, like the shooters, that didn't feel a part of the school could be helped, and there would not be another tragedy like happened in Columbine. And so as a result of that, in fact, Rachel's uncle was in Bismarck just this summer at a conference, and so I heard him speak again. But this has been a program that we have embraced in some schools, in the Bismarck Public Schools. And basically, it is students that pick up where Rachel left off. Things that she looked for was always look for the best in others, not to be prejudiced, give everybody at least 3 chances, set goals, have dreams, make them a reality, be kind and compassionate and show that daily by your actions, be a positive influence, choose your friends wisely, never give up, don't ever be labeled as average was one of the things that they found in Rachel's journal. And there were 3 kinds of students that Rachel particularly targeted in her efforts of being kind and compassionate and empathetic, and they were disabled new students and those that were picked on by others. And so that's what Friends of Rachel in the schools does, is they look for those 3 kinds of students and make sure that they are being caring and kind and considerate to those maybe less fortunate or those that need a friend in our school.
Wow. How can teachers translate that philosophy in their every, day in, day out with their students?
Well, teachers do that every day, and it's, some of the things at middle school, of course, our home base is a place where those types of efforts are handled. And so home base for middle school is one of those places. Programs like this, because students know who's being picked on well before teachers and well before administrators or counselors or parents. And so having those students that are really good ears and eyes to the school will let you know. There was an incident last year where they said there's a student being picked on, and a whole group of the Rachel's Challenge students came in to see me, and as a result, we were able to make some inroads with administration and with teachers and everybody working towards that goal of making sure that that student was no longer picked on.
Oh, beautiful. And so when you say a group of Rachel's Challenge students, is this a group that students can belong to?
Right, and they meet every Tuesday because Tuesday was that fateful, awful day in Columbine. So we use Tuesday noon, and they give up their half-an-hour lunch break to do good things for the community and to talk about issues within the school, and they are the eyes and the ears so that we can get to issues before they get to be huge issues.
And this is at Wachter Middle School?
It is.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us. And you also talked, Dotti, about a nurtured heart approach. Tell us about that.
Well, nurtured heart is an approach that can be used by schools. Howard Glauser is the person that founded that particular, but what it does is it builds on strengths, that every student has strengths, and we just need to find the strengths in every student to bring forward. It is totally positive with no negativity, so it works well when you're dealing with these types of situations.
And if students or parents want to report that someone is bullying, what are their options?
They can go directly to obviously a teacher, administrator, counselor, or if they want to be more anonymous, the students have a text-a-tip that they have in their phones. They're allowed to put that there in their phone. And also the bullying report form, if you go to the Bismarck Public Schools website and go down on the sidebar to the very bottom one, there is a report form that you can enter either anonymously or you can turn it in. And so that is another way to report. Either way, just so we want to know of those things so that we can take care of them.
Absolutely. And joining the conversation is Valerie Fischer. Valerie, you are the Director of Safe and Healthy Schools through North Dakota DPI.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about DPI's Safe and Healthy Schools program.
The Safe and Healthy Schools unit is responsible basically for safe and healthy schools and safe and healthy students. Our role is to provide professional development, technical assistance, resources, and any other information to schools, parents, and students on a multitude of issues that involve their safety and health.
Fantastic. And how do you get that information out?
We are on site at a lot of schools doing conferences, meetings, presentations, working with teachers. We do focus groups with students. We talk with parent groups. We want to do anything and everything so that we feel we have our pulse on what it's like to be a kid now. It's very different.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Than it used to be.
What are you learning?
Wow.
Things you never wanted to imagine, I bet.
Yeah, it's kids are amazing. They are strong, they are independent, and they are very resilient. But there are also students who are vulnerable and who are targets of bullying. And bullying is terrible. It is the gateway activity to truancy, to risk behaviors such as drug and alcohol use, dropping out of school. It is just that one activity that can make or break any student. And so it is much more critical than it used to be. Everybody remembers their class bully growing up. You probably do, Scott. You probably remember yours. But it's different these days. The technology, as Dr. Dixon alluded to earlier, makes it very instant. When you can Facebook something and instantly it goes to 1,000 people rather than just telling somebody in the hallway. And so bullying is very different, and it is a big problem. And it's one that we are constantly working on to try to bring the attention to all people, whether you have children or not, and to really look at the impact that it has, and also what little things can be done to make a difference and to change it so that bullying is not a prevalent behavior.
Well, we absolutely want to learn more from you in the next segment about things that we can be doing, whether it's in the schools or at home with our children or as community members, to really build up our youth, build up their assets, and hopefully create an environment where bullying doesn't exist. I want to get your feedback on the next segment, or in the next segment, on the national study and the local study that has been done, your reaction to the high numbers, and we'll be coming back in just a few minutes here to talk about what we can be doing as a community to protect our youth and to build them up. This is United Way's Community Talk on Super Talk 1270. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/MSAUway. We'll be back in just a couple minutes to talk more with Valerie.
Currently, it's 68.
Get the app called Radio Pup for your iPhone and take us everywhere you go. Bismarck-Mandan's own Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to United Way's Community Talk. I am Jenna Gullo, your co-host today, the executive director of the MSA United Way, and joining me is my co-host, Mr. Hanson.
I thought I just got a promotion there for a second.
Without co-host.
With the introduction there.
You did. Scott, we've been busy at our office getting ready for the campaign. What's been going on?
A lot of presentations. I know you've been out running around talking about United Way at all sorts of different businesses. And we're looking for more businesses to speak at. So if somebody's interested in learning about United Way, how they can get involved, give our office a call at 255-3601.
Yeah, what people really enjoy hearing about is the value add of our United Way, how you can get a bigger return on your investment and how you can actually see the return on investment of your donor dollars, because we measure outcomes, we really vet the agencies, and we bring people together to solve some of the community issues. So whether you want to sponsor a backpack over the weekend, or you want to adopt a classroom, because we have 29% of students in Bismarck-Mandan that don't feel they have a positive adult role model, whether you want to assist in, becoming a foster grandparent. We have various volunteer opportunities, and we have a website, Scott, that you've listed a lot of these opportunities, right?
Yeah, volunteerbisman.com. It is the local hub in Bismarck-Mandan for any volunteer opportunities. If you're interested in getting involved, there are a number of opportunities on there. You can shop around and find the one that's the right fit for you.
So we are here for our community, and we certainly want to have a safe and healthy environment at our schools for our kids to go to, for them to thrive. And joining us is Valerie Fischer, North Dakota Department of Public Instruction Director of Safe and Healthy Schools. That's quite a title.
It is.
Thanks, Valerie. You just have so much insight into this topic of bullying that we've been talking about today. What was your department's reaction to the recent statistics that I find rather alarming, that 1 in 4 high school students are bullied in North Dakota, that nearly 50% of middle school students in Bismarck-Mandan report being bullied on school property? What's the reaction from your department, and what can we be doing as a community?
The department is very concerned about bullying because, as I said earlier, bullying is really seen as a gateway activity. And so kids who are bullied tend to experience other risk behaviors, such as getting involved with drugs or alcohol. Truancy becomes an issue because they don't want to be at school. Kids who are bullied are often those first to drop out of school. And so if we can curb this behavior as a gateway behavior to everything else, we can let a lot of those other issues take care of themselves. And bullying as a child also leads to bullying as an adult and those feelings of feeling inferior and not feeling worthy. And so it's important that we teach children at a young age what it really means to be kind, to be respectful, and what bullying is and what it has as an implication personally. Bullying is one of those things that is also based on perceptions. I may say something to you and it doesn't bother you a bit because maybe you're just wired a little differently, or your self-concept is very strong. And the next person could be said the same thing to, and it impacts them greatly and it affects them very personally. And so you can't just say one approach works for everybody because everybody is different. At middle school, it's all about fitting in. It's about finding your peer group, and it's about knowing that you belong to a group and that you have value, social and emotional value. At high school, the numbers drop a little bit because kids kind of find themselves with different peer groups. They kind of grow out of the maturity or the immaturity, and they get a little more self-confident, and it's not as critical or as important to them as to what your peers may think about you. If you belong to band, that's your group. If you belong to the drama club or the newspaper or a sports team, that's really your peer group, and you feel comfortable and safe within that group, and you're less likely to bully in high school.
And my concern is always for those students who don't have that group. And I look at young kids, and many times parents, they might either have their child in every activity or they're not participating in any activity. And so what are some things that parents, if they're noticing that their child isn't maybe the best athlete, they've never taken, any musical instruments, or maybe what would a parent do in that situation?
Mm-hmm. I think it's important to really look at all of the extracurriculars that are available. It doesn't have to be just sports or team sports. It can be music. It can be newspaper or writing. It can be drama and plays. It can be other clubs and organizations, and not just within your school, but within your church or within your community, where you're really expanding beyond just your school peer group, but more of a community and a wider-based group.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to be very intentional about getting them involved so that they can find where they fit in and where they feel comfortable or can excel. So do you see a difference between genders and how boys might bully versus girls?
Yes. Typically, boys tend to bully by way of fighting. It used to be you'd go out behind the school building and beat the tar out of each other, and it was over. Boys tend to forget quickly. Girls do not. Girls never forget. They can hold a grudge for a long time. Girls tend to be a little more emotional in their bullying. They tend to do more Facebook, more electronic bullying than boys do. And girls are very keen at bullying by exclusion, which is sometimes very different and difficult because you're looking for, within a school, you're probably looking for people who are fighting or pushing or talking or being vocal or physically aggressive in their bullying. Whereas when it's done by exclusion and a group of, say, 5 or 6 girls who are friends, all of a sudden exclude one person. No room at the lunch table for her. They leave school at the end of the day without checking in or without taking her with. They don't talk to her in the hall. Exclusion can be a form of bullying that's a little bit harder to spy. It's a little harder to get to. And it's also harder to fix because you have to sit down and say, why are you excluding her? What's going on? And how do you mend that relationship? And that takes a little more finesse and a little more time to rectify those types of bullying.
Well, and I think it would be tricky as a parent because how do you defend your child with, the cattiness that might be going on, and when really it's affecting them on a day-to-day basis. And so what do you have a recommendation of what a parent could say to their child if they're experiencing that sort of bullying?
It's very heartfelt when parents call our agency and have stories about bullying, and they think that they've done everything, and they really begin to worry. They may see an absence in schools, school attendance, or they see a withdrawing kind of into themselves, or sometimes a lack of involvement in activity. And parents worry very often about their kids. And you really have to get involved with the school administration and work with the school, but also talk to your son or daughter about what's going on. As Dotti had mentioned earlier, those open-ended questions, and really listening to your kids and knowing enough about their peer groups and their activities so that you're finding out when things aren't quite gelling right. And talk to your kids about what's going on with others. You can't always control the behavior of others, but can you control what it does to yourself? Can you do some self-talk about the fact that somebody may have said something about me, but I know better. I know that that's not true. Does it hurt not to have a peer group, not to have someone calling you at night or going to school and knowing who you're going to sit with at lunch? Those things are very important to young adults and to teens, and we sometimes forget what is really important in their world. And so we have to be able to recognize and have kids look out for kids. The power of one is incredible, and that can be one student, it could be one bystander, it can be one adult. To step in and really be aware of your surroundings enough to know somebody doesn't have a place to sit at the lunchroom. You create a table and you sit with them, or you invite somebody else over. But you have to really be very aware and full of perception as to what's going on. That can be very important. Sometimes kids have to kind of grow out of it, and age helps a little bit. But it can be very hard when you feel that you're 13 or 12 and you feel like your world is crumbling and you have no friends, and that people are maybe talking about you and saying things that aren't true. It can be really devastating, and it's hard to rise above that. It's not something you do overnight, and it's not the easiest of things to do. But by communicating with your parents and staying in touch with the school and your peer group, you can really work very hard to make a change and to correct those behaviors.
Thank you so much, Valerie Fischer, DPI's Director of Safe and Healthy Schools. Thank you for all you're doing for our students. We had some fantastic guests on today. Thank you to Dr. Dixon. Also, we had Stand Up North Dakota on air, so everyone go and get some good content, some good information that you can share with your own children, and you can also help in the community. Fighting bullying in North Dakota. Thank you for everyone who is helping to empower our students, and let's get these rates down. Let's get more kids empowered to do something about it. This is United Way's Community Talk. We thank Town Square Media, Super Talk 1270 for helping us to bring light to a lot of these issues many of us might not know about otherwise. We will be back in 2 weeks. We hope that you will join us, and also join us on Facebook, join us on Twitter, and thank you for helping us with this year's campaign. Call us if you need anything, 701-255-3601. We will see you in 2 weeks at United Way's Community Talk and Super Talk 1270.